Zika virus is a virus that is spread to humans through the bite of an infected mosquito.
Whether it's about controlling mosquitoes or giving advice to pregnant women, that this is a completely unprecedented situation.
The Zika virus, just mentioning the disease incites fear, anxiety, and a growing list of questions. The mosquito-borne illness is a mystery that is slowly unraveling. As federal, state, and local officials learn more about the Zika virus, they are discovering they have only scratched the surface. During this special in-depth examination of the Zika virus, we will provide you with vital information about one of the carriers of the virus, the Asian tiger mosquito. Protecting yourself against infected mosquitoes. Angela Cranfield-Edmond from the Prince George's County Health Department will go over the symptoms, the treatment, and prevention. And on the front lines against Zika in Laurel, Michelle Blair from the City of Laurel's Department of Public Works will highlight the city's efforts to combat any potential Zika here. You'll also hear from Laurel Mayor Craig A. Moe, who is encouraging neighbor to help neighbor combat Zika. Welcome to this Laurel TV special presentation on the Zika virus. I'm Audrey Barnes. We want to start this discussion with a conversation with Janine Dorothy from the Maryland Department of Agriculture. You're here to tell us a little bit more about the Asian tiger mosquito and the whole Zika threat that we're all suffering from now. Let's start by talking about the Asian tiger mosquito. It's like, what, an eighth of an inch long?
They're a normal size mosquito. They tend to be a little bit smaller sometimes, but yes, they're fairly small.
And they got their name, a lot of people may not know this, they got their name because of that stripe down the back?
Right, because of they're very striped. The legs are striped, and then they have what I call a racing stripe right down their head and thorax. So you can tell them if they're younger mosquitoes and they haven't been rubbed too badly, they haven't been beaten up too badly, you can tell them pretty easily.
So those mosquitoes have been here for a while. How prevalent are they?
They're pretty prevalent. In Prince George's County, we have a lot of neighborhoods that have a lot of tiger mosquitoes, but they can also be very spotty. So they might be in part of your neighborhood. You might have a lot of them. A neighbor 3 blocks away might not have any. So they tend to be very, very spotty.
Now, you had a chance to get some new numbers on the number of cases of the Zika virus. Tell us the latest numbers on that. Okay,
these are all travel-related cases. We have not had an in-state transmission in any state except in Puerto Rico. There have been some, and that's part of the U.S. So, but inside the mainland U.S., we have had 691 cases as of June 8th, and in Maryland, we're up to 21.
Are there any similarities of the Maryland cases? Do we know anything about that?
I don't know. A lot of the information is protected because it's health information, so that I don't know.
But we believe most of them are travel related, right?
They're all travel related.
All travel related.
We don't know how it was acquired wherever they were. It might have been mosquito-borne, it might have been sexually transmitted, because it can be either.
So what is the Maryland Department of Agriculture's role in this battle against the Asian tiger mosquito and Zika?
Well, we have a regular, Maryland Department of Agriculture runs the mosquito control program for the state, and certain counties participate in different ways. So if you want to know specifically, we would have to talk about which county. But overall in the state, we have a program for mosquito control. We do a lot of trapping. We do a lot of larvicide, which is treating the breeding areas, the small puddles and large ponds and things like that where mosquitoes can breed. And then we do a lot of public education about tiger mosquitoes.
Right, I see you brought some brochures and things that you give out to educate people about it.
Yeah, this is one of the newer ones we have, and it's got a nice picture of the Asian tiger mosquito on the cover. And it has a lot of information about where they breed. They're strictly container breeders, so they're very different than our native mosquitoes for the most part. And then we got these the other day. These are published by a company in Virginia, and one is in English, one is in Spanish, and they're activity books for kids. And they talk about where tiger mosquitoes can breed, what kind of containers they can breed in. How you eliminate them is dumping the containers, getting rid of the water.
And let's talk about your primary focus too, the spraying program. MDA is in charge of that. It's not the local DPW crews that do that, right?
No, it's Maryland Department of Agriculture for the most part. There's a few counties that run their own programs, but not Prince George's. We do the spraying in Prince George's. And it's limited to communities that participate in the program. They pay 100% of the cost for the spray program. It's actually a much smaller part of our overall program than the larvicide or the trapping is.
So we have already been sprayed here in Laurel.
Yep, you were sprayed last night. A couple of segments of Laurel were sprayed. We don't generally spray the whole community. We will trap in areas, and if we exceed our threshold number, we'll spray in those areas.
Okay. So, and in Laurel, I should say that our spraying day is random Sundays through September?
Right. It's always Sunday night. It will always be on a Sunday, and unless we have a specific, something come up specific. And then it can be pretty much, it'll be about every 2-3 weeks probably.
Now, I noticed you brought also some things that homeowners can do on their own to try and reduce their risk.
Yes, when you're talking about where mosquitoes can breed, this one is strictly container breeding. And something like a whip topping container, a Frisbee, and flower pot saucers that people have under their flower pots. All of these will hold water, plus a lot of other things. I didn't bring my entire junk show. And all of those will hold a little bit of water. The mosquito lays their eggs right above the water line. And then when the water floods up over that due to rainfall, then those will hatch. The eggs will hatch. This is one of my little pet peeves. If people have this, they should get rid of it. It can be replaced with PVC pipe to get the water away from your house. But with these things, every one of these little corrugations in this pipe holds a little bit of water and can hold a few mosquito larvae. So if you have a length 20 feet long, you have a mosquito problem.
Can I use those to try to reduce my mosquito population?
What we tell homeowners is tip or toss. If you have something that you need to keep, tip the water out of it. If you don't need it, if it's a container like one of these, get rid of it or store it inside in a shed. But these are two things. We're not allowed to recommend anything in particular, but these are two things that homeowners can buy at garden centers, home stores, things like that. And either of these can be used. If you have something in your yard like a rain barrel and it's not screened well, you can use these for that, to actually kill the mosquito larvae.
We asked some of our viewers and residents to kind of send in Twitter questions and Facebook questions, and I did get one. This person wants to know, what is the best type of repellent to use?
Again, we're not allowed to recommend specific brands or anything, but the best is still DEET. That would be the active ingredient that you're looking for. It's more effective for a longer time than most of the others, but there are other things homeowners can use. There's 3 that work almost as well as DEET. They won't last as long, you'll have to reapply. But those are oil of lemon eucalyptus, picaridin, and then IR 3535. And if you see any of those in the active ingredient, it's going to be an effective repellent.
That sounds very good advice. I guess my final question would be, is MDA monitoring it, talking to the governor's office? And what if there was a major outbreak? Is there a plan in place to protect us?
We have a plan. It's a response plan for mosquito-borne disease. And the main emphasis is coming from the state health department. They're the ones who know where these cases are coming up. We will get information from them if they think that there's a possibility that we need to respond to that. We also have other triggers. There's a number of triggers we'll respond to, not just a case of Zika. So there are other things we'll respond to if we need to.
Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it. Excellent information.
Okay.
Well, coming up next, the World Health Organization answers questions about the devastating effects of the Zika virus for pregnant women and their babies. We'll be right back.
Laurel, Maryland, where strolling a footbridge in a park can bring neighbors together for some scenic relaxation along the Patuxent.
This is my Laurel.
Where a small business can thrive for generations, luring people to Main Street for more than just festivals.
This is my Laurel.
For all things Laurel, tune in to Laurel TV. Turn your power on.
For most people, the Zika virus will cause a fever, a rash, joint pain, or conjunctivitis. That's pink eye. But for pregnant women, the impact is life-changing. The Zika virus can cause a serious birth defect called microcephaly and other severe brain defects. More on that now from Dr. Anthony Costello of the World Health Organization.
Microcephaly means being born with an abnormally small head. Small in relation to the rest of the body, and it indicates that the brain may not have grown adequately during pregnancy. It can be caused by a number of conditions: infections, severe malnutrition, exposure to toxic chemicals. But we're worried at the moment that the new emergence of Zika virus, a relatively mild infection in Southern America, has been associated with infections presumably early in pregnancy, which have affected the growth of the baby's brains. In order to know whether your child has microcephaly or not, the first is you need to talk to your obstetrician or midwife who's caring for you antenatally. And it may be possible to do ultrasound scans later on in the pregnancy to look at the baby's brain and to look at measures of brain growth. But not all cases will be picked up in the antenatal period. Once the baby is born, of course, then the baby needs to be properly assessed by a pediatrician by examining the baby, looking at developmental milestones, and by doing brain imaging and measuring the head in relation to the size of the body. There are certainly cases of children born with small heads considered to be microcephalic who have gone on to have completely normal development. They may be the exception rather than the norm, but these cases certainly exist. And we don't know much about if there is this association between Zika virus and microcephaly, which seems to be the case, what end of the spectrum, whether this is the severe end or the mild end. So we have to be cautious. What all children need is love and care and attention and stimulation and very good pediatric care and help from developmental specialists if they are running into developmental problems. If you live in an affected region where these mosquitoes are present, you must assume that you are potentially at risk of contracting Zika virus in South America right now. So therefore you do need to take personal protection. That means making sure mosquitoes are excluded from your house, making sure that you use insect repellents to stop being bitten by mosquitoes, covering up during the daytime with clothes that will protect you from being bitten. With the Aedes mosquitoes, you have to worry about being bitten in the morning and during the daytime. And most important of all, being part of a community and neighborhood movement to remove breeding sites of mosquitoes.
Joining me now from the Prince George's County Health Department is Angela Crinkfield Edmond. She's the program chief. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Now, a lot of people may not know that Zika has actually been around since what, 1947? Yes. It started in the forest in Uganda?
Yes, that's correct.
So before 2007, there was only 14 cases. Now we're up to 691 cases worldwide, 21 here in Maryland. A lot of people, the obvious question is, why this huge spike? Why are we just now hearing about all these cases of the Zika virus?
Well, there's been several mosquito-borne diseases, and now that there's been an increase in the testing for Zika virus, you're going to see that there's an increase in the number of cases.
So there's no cure for Zika?
There's no cure, there's no vaccine. The main thing is people need to protect themselves from being bitten by mosquitoes.
And what about people who do get Zika? Not everyone has to be hospitalized, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Most people that are infected with the Zika virus don't even develop any symptoms. If you have traveled to a country that's infected with the Zika virus and you develop symptoms within 2 weeks from that travel, and you notice that you've developed a fever, a rash, joint pain, the conjunctivitis, the red eyes, then you want to seek medical attention.
And like you said, there's no cure, so we have to find ways to prevent it.
That's correct.
What are some things that we could do to protect ourselves?
One of the first things you want to do is protect yourself when you're going to go outside. So you want to wear long sleeves or long pants. The other thing is to use environmental protective agencies' insect repellent.
Now, what about infants? I mean, repellents are not safe for very young infants, correct?
Correct. So for small infants, what you want to do is cover them as much as you can as possible. You can use mosquito netting to cover over top of strollers or over top of carriages just to protect them.
No child under 2 months old should have repellent applied on them, right?
That's correct.
So, okay, beach time's coming. We got the sunscreen, we got the repellent, we got lotions. Is there any special order that we should apply all this? Because what we really want to protect ourselves, besides the UVA and the UVB rays, are mosquitoes, right?
Right. So the best way to do that is put your sunscreen on first and then apply your insect repellent. And then when you're going to apply that to small children and you need to put it on their face, make sure that the parent puts it on their hands first and then they put it onto the face of the child.
Okay. Now we talked about treatment, and I want to make sure that we talk a little bit about how do you treat it? If you get all those symptoms and you come back, what do you do? How do they treat it? How do you get better?
The main thing is to get plenty of rest, drink plenty of fluids, and the other thing is they usually use acetaminophen, which is like Tylenol, to help reduce fever if you have a fever.
Okay. Now, we've been taking some social media questions, and I did have one from a Twitter follower that wanted to know about all these homemade remedies. Mm-hmm. Are they effective? Can they work?
It's possible, but the most important thing to use is the ones that have been tested, and those are the ones that have been tested by the EPA, which is Environmental Protection Agency, because we know that those are effective.
So what's your best advice, Angela, if you had just to sum it up, your best advice as we deal with Zika?
The most important thing is to protect yourself from being bitten by mosquitoes, that is in your home or even when you're out in the community. So wear long sleeves, wear long pants if you can. If you're going to use the insect repellent, make sure you follow the directions that are on the bottles for that. And also you want to protect yourself from unprotected sex for those people that have traveled into infected countries.
Because even every day it seems like there's new health warnings about delaying pregnancy if you have traveled to those areas or if your partner has.
That's correct. So you want to, in addition to protecting yourself from mosquitoes, you do want to make sure that your partner is protecting you also. And that you delay when you determine or decide when you want to get pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Very good advice. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. We touched on all the major things, and I think that's very good health information.
Okay.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Still to come, the city of Laurel has teamed up with the Maryland Department of Agriculture to fight the Zika virus here. We'll tell you about the city's efforts to protect you and your family coming up.
Laurel, Maryland's outdoor pleasures can be found in its acres of parkland or on a lake,
This is my Laurel.
where a legacy of service to others rises from the ashes of a downtown fire and sparks a renewed sense of community,
This is my Laurel.
where the people and the leaders work together for progress.
This is my Laurel.
For all things Laurel, tune in to Laurel TV. Turn your power on.
There is no cure for the Zika virus. The only line of defense is prevention, and that starts at home. The City of Laurel's Department of Public Works will even come out and help you mosquito-proof your property. Michelle Blair takes us along on a tour of homes in Laurel.
When Public Works is asked to do a backyard inspection for potential breeding grounds, the first thing that we would do is we would look up and we would look at the gutters and make sure that there wasn't any growth coming out of the gutters. So these gutters look really good. And then you look at the downspout and you make sure that the downspouts are not the corrugated ones, the ones with the bumps, because they are really big potential breeding grounds. And if you had that kind, you just put a mesh wire over it so the mosquitoes can't get in to lay their eggs. So this one looks good. You want to go around and look at everything, whether it's just a cap of a bottle, whether it is a planter that has a saucer over it, or it's something big like that, tip or toss. What they need is they need water, they need food, and if you can tell, see there's all grass and leaves. and that's nutrients to them. So that's what they need to grow. So this is just, for them, this is like the best home they could ever have. You'll see these little black things, and that's mosquito larvae. And then, again, you just toss it. That is a breeding ground for the Asian tiger mosquito. That little tiny bit of water. So the residents said, oh, I'm doing good, I tipped it over. What they didn't realize is that this is gonna collect water. So you have to tip it over. And it really should be on its side. If you haven't been in your yard for a long time and you're just doing the initial cleanup, or if you've noticed that there's a lot more mosquitoes out, what you can do is go to a thrift store, go through your closet, find something that's really old that you don't mind getting nasty. I like to have a button down. The reason is because what I'm gonna do, or what I would do, is I would actually get pesticide that I would put on the clothes. So it's not touching my skin, but it'd be on the clothes. And then this way, I can tie this up so things don't get underneath. And then when I'm finished with it, I would unbutton it. So I'm not pulling it over my head, I'm not struggling with it. It's a really inexpensive way to protect yourself when you're working in the garden, especially if you already notice that you're going out and you're getting bit by mosquitoes.
Michelle Blair from Laurel's Department of Public Works is here now to talk a little bit about this great service that the city offers, spot checking people's homes. That's great. A lot of people probably don't know that you guys will actually come out and do that.
Yes, residents can contact us as the liaison, Public Works as a liaison with the Department of Agriculture on the mosquito control. Residents can contact us via our email, via public stuff, or they can telephone us and say that there is a problem in the neighborhood, and Public Works will come out and we'll go around your neighborhood, go around in your yard, and see where we can tip it or toss it.
Tip it or toss it. That seems to be the key for mosquito proofing, right?
That is the key. If people could just use that every week, say, okay, Friday is my tip it or toss it day. They go around their backyard. They look for anything that can hold water, even a little tiny bit of water, and just toss it. Just tip it, toss it, anything that can hold water.
Now, if you are concerned and you want DPW to come out, tell us what the crews can and cannot do on people's properties.
Basically, we can tip it or toss it. Public Works is not authorized, we're not certified to use any type of dunks, any type of pesticides in someone's yard. That's not saying that the resident can't, but all we can do is we can tip it or toss it. If we see that there's a tarp that's really kind of yucky and is a breeding ground, we can suggest that you toss it. If we see a bird bath or a dog dish or anything, a frisbee that has water in it, we can obviously tip it. And we can advise residents on certain breeding grounds, what they need to be aware of. If there's something that would involve not only their backyard, but other people's backyards, we can also call our property standards division in the city and ask them to clean up their property.
So this is a partnership between the Maryland Department of Agriculture and the City of Laurel.
Yes.
The spraying is done by the MDA.
Yes.
And then Laurel's role is educating residents.
Educating residents, going out, doing spot checks, working with residents who have a problem with maybe stormwater ponds or anywhere where there's new construction, where there would be ruts and water that's not moving. So they would contact us as the liaison. We would contact MDA and ask that they're on the larviciding list, meaning that stormwater ponds or construction sites, anything that there's standing water. And the residents then would work through us. If enough residents come, then we would do a neighborhood inspection, and Public Works can do that, MDA can do that. We are working on abandoned properties. So properties that are in foreclosure are the ones that have the highest risk because no one's tipping or tossing, no one's mowing the lawn. So we're working closely with our property standards to make sure that these foreclosed homes are actually maintaining their yards.
So what if you simply don't want anyone to spray around your home? What are your options?
There is on the MDA website and also on the city's website, there is an exemption form. That exemption form needs to be filled out every year and sent into the Maryland Department of Agriculture. What will happen is that will basically freeze the whole block. So if you're mid-block, that means that your neighbors on either side of you and across from you will not get sprayed. We don't spray people's homes, or MDA doesn't, but they obviously go down the street.
So people who are living in these no spray zones, you guys visited them and told them, you're in the no spray zone, you need to protect yourself?
Yes, we reached out at the very beginning of the larviciding season, and we hand-delivered letters explaining that they were in the no spray zone, that the Zika virus is very serious, that it is a container breeder. The Asian tiger is the one that could spread it, that they need to really police their yards, work as a community to let them know that if they want to continue to be on the no spray, they need to send in that form again to MDA, and that if we are informed, if the city is informed via the Maryland Department of Agriculture, who will be informed by the governor's office and the state health department, that there is a serious problem, they will be sprayed.
Yeah, that raises an interesting question. We got this from one of our Twitter followers. What if my neighbors don't want their house sprayed, but I really want you to spray mine? What can I do?
Well, you really, they can't spray and then not spray. So the whole block is basically on the no spray zone. What we can do is DPW can go out, we can check out your backyard, your neighbors. We can give you ideas. We can give you a checklist of what to tip or toss every week. I have a list and a link that's on our website from the EPA that will bring you, it's an interactive link that will give you some examples of what you can use to treat your own backyard. So you're going to treat your own backyard. MDA will not go down the street. It will be on the no spray list.
You brought a couple of little examples of the city can help you educate your neighbors and things like that. You have some brochures and things like that.
So we have, this is in city facilities. The mayor also, everything that you'll see here, the mayor will have at his city hall in the park.
Okay.
He will have it on his one-on-one on the mayor. These will be available in all city facilities, and if you contact Public Works, we can deliver it to your house.
Okay.
So this is a frequently asked questions about the Zika virus. It gives you what pesticides that can be used. This is from the Maryland Department of Agriculture, and how to protect your children, how to protect yourself. This is from the CDC. And this is a double-sided. Again, this actually gives you some of the active ingredient, which is the DEET, which Janine talked about, and it actually gives you some brand names.
Oh, that's good.
Just to help people out. And it also helps you there are certain products that should not be used on children. So that's one thing. All this information, all the links is on the city's website, specifically Department of Public Works, mosquito control. The one that is really cool is from the EPA.gov, where you actually go in, you say what's your problem, what area you're treating, and it will, you put that information, it will pop up and say these are some of the products you can use, especially if you're sensitive to certain products. So that's really cool. And then we will also, this is mosquito bites are bad. That's for children, and they will also be available at city facilities, and we'll give them out to the day camps.
Michelle, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, coming up next, neighbor helping neighbor. Find out why Laurel Mayor Craig A. Moe says that could be the best protection against the Zika virus. We'll be right back.
This is my Laurel.
Where the past is not only restored and preserved, it's celebrated. Community, art, culture, history, pride. where old school class never goes out of style, ushering in the next generation of Main Street entrepreneurs.
This is my Laurel.
For all things Laurel, tune in to Laurel TV. Turn your power on.
As you've heard, there are local, state, and federal authorities working to fight the Zika virus. But every resident also has a responsibility for their family and their neighbors. We talked with Laurel Mayor Craig A. Moe about that.
We're here in my backyard, and we're just looking for places that mosquitoes may gather. And we don't want that in Laurel because we're worried about the Zika virus. But things like my plants in my backyard, we'll make sure we drain the water. We'll make sure we clean them up. So I'll get that a little bit later on. And then over here, you can see I want to take care of the birds, but it also creates other problems. We have water that gathers. So you need to go around in your backyard, your front yard, and make sure that you're taking care of standing water. Get rid of that as much as possible. Clean up your yards. We'll make sure there's no trash. Want to make sure that the areas around your house are clean and kept water-free right now while summer's here and we're dealing with mosquitoes and issues such as Zika. We have a program that we want to start, Neighbors Helping Neighbors, and not everybody is capable of walking around their yards, so we encourage you to check on those that may have issues moving around, as well as some of the elderly, because it is hot, it gets humid out, and you want to make sure that you check your backyards, your front yards, or your residents in particular. You just want to make sure that you keep those areas clean and free of trash and standing water. We're there to serve and we're there to help, so we encourage you just to keep your areas clear and free as much as possible.
Many thanks to Mayor Moe for that. When we return, some last-minute advice to prevent a Zika outbreak in your community. Stay tuned.
Laurel, Maryland, where strolling a footbridge in a park can bring neighbors together for some scenic relaxation along the Patuxent.
This is my Laurel.
Where a small business can thrive for generations, luring people to Main Street for more than just festivals.
This is my Laurel.
For all things Laurel, tune in to Laurel TV. Turn your power on.
Welcome back. A couple of closing thoughts for you. Now that the weather has warmed up, it's prime time for mosquitoes, especially Asian tiger mosquitoes, linked to 691 cases of the Zika virus, including 21 right here in Maryland. You have to take steps now to protect yourself and your property. Avoid being outside early or late in the day. Wear loose clothing with long sleeves. Tip it or toss anything that could collect even a thimbleful of water. Women trying to get pregnant shouldn't travel to those areas with Zika outbreaks or have unprotected sex with a man who has recently traveled there. If you would like the City of Laurel Department of Public Works to mosquito-proof your yard, call them at 301-725-0088. For more information, visit the Center for Disease Control Prevention website at cdc.gov. I'm Audrey Barnes. This has been a special Laurel TV presentation on the Zika virus. Thanks for watching.